Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do partial knitting on the knitting machine. I've got a Toyota 747 Alina. First of all, you need to push out all the needles right to the front to E position. These needles will not be knitted. And as you can see here, I've left 3 needles in working position. I'm going to knit like a bobble on my knitting machine. Now, first of all, make sure your yarn is in the holder, and then you need to push in your partial knitting buttons. On this machine, there are these 2 buttons on either side. So when you take the carriage to the left, these needles will not be knitted, and also going back to the right. Okay. I'm using a slightly thinner yarn here, so I've just turned my tension dial down from 7 to 5, so you can use it like this. Okay, so take the carriage across. So I'm just knitting the needles, just checking them, as you can see here. I can do this about 10 times. Just checking that none of the stitches have come off. I'm actually using a specialist yarn here called PVA yarn. Okay. As you can see, the stitches here are more than the ones that are being held. So it's creating like this little loop. I'm going to push it through this way so you can see more. And obviously it's creating a gap here as well, because there's only 1 stitch attached to the other needle, and we've got 10 or more stitches that have been knitted here. Okay. I'm going to do 1 more stitch across to make sure that the carriage is on the right hand side. Then I'm going to put these stitches just a tiny bit forward. Yeah, push that in. And I'm going to be joining these stitches here up onto the needles to join them up again. So I've grabbed my stitch, the last one on that row before we started to use a different thread. I'm going to then catch the needle and push it on to the needle. And I'm going to do the same for either sides here, oops, and here. Okay, and here's the last one. I'm now going to pull all those needles out, pushing the thread back, so they will all be now in the same position as they were before I started to do the little bobble. Okay, moving along, I want to bobble in the middle of the fabric, so I'm going to now reposition these 3 needles back, and then making sure the ones that are used earlier I've pushed all forward, and these ones here are all still in the holding position. Then always check your yarn in the holder. I might just tighten that up a little bit and take the carriage along. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, just checking that they're all there. There they are. Sometimes you'll find that the stitches, because of the different type of yarn I'm using, sometimes the stitches are really difficult to get, to identify again. So I use a hook to try and hook that out there if you're finding it difficult. Okay, so they were back on the needle. This time I'm going to have pulled all the needles forward into working position, unlock the partial knitting. I've also changed my yarn back to wool, and I need to just make the stitch tension a little bit higher because the yarn is thicker. Okay, I'm going to do a couple of rows. One here. Oops. Okay. Okay. And there are the bobbles underneath there. You do get a float, unfortunately. These are a little bit bigger because of the yarn I've been using, but with practice and with the same sort of yarn you can get just a normal float. I'm now going to cast off. Okay, so this is the other side, and these are your little bobbles. They've got like a little tubing, so yep, worked well.